Peacock feathers, peacock feathers, peacock feathers, more peacock feathers. Hello and welcome back. I'm so sorry I've been absent. I've had the yucky flu. But I've been itching to get back to continue with the last video in my peacock series. So if you haven't seen the first videos, then do look them up on my channel. I shall put a link at the end of this video so you can go and find them if you're interested. But this time, what I'm doing is I'm taking the whole process one step further, and I'm going to use the ghost prints and then reverse paint them to come up with something that's a bit more interesting, I think, than the original ones. So these are the two pictures we're going to create. The second one is really interesting. What I do on that one is I do a double ghost print. So I put down a ghost print using a light colour paint, which looks like the highlights on the feather. And on top of that, I put another ghost print in a darker colour paint, which comes across as the shadows. So hopefully you'll find that an interesting technique that you might be able to use yourselves. And finally, gel printing is gel printing, and it doesn't always go to plan. And in the second video, when I'm lifting up my print, I find I get that typical problem where some of my print doesn't lift off and my paper's ripping and it's sticking to the plate. Well, that was actually quite handy because it gave me the opportunity to show you a sneaky little method that you can use to try and re-stick your print back onto the paper. So stay tuned to the end so you can see how that's done. All right, let's not waste any more time. Let's get on with the printing. I'm going to go ultramarine. Roll it out with the same roller with a bit of green on it. It won't matter. It will blend in nicely. Get a good spread, not too thick a layer. So I get a clear print, not a smudgy print. Take the excess off my roller onto this scrap of paper. Let's use this one. It's a great shape. Put that on there, and I do those the other way around. I put that one down first and then lay that on top. Maybe one more can go in there. Then I'm going to put that on top of this first print. I'm taking time here to press carefully around the feathers to make sure I can pick up as much paint as possible. There's that. And now I'm giving it a quick whiz with my hairdryer to make sure it's all fully dry. I'm going to try and put a little bit of the peacock pattern in there. See how it goes. So I'm going to apply my paint using this sponge-tipped applicator. They're little round sponges that you can Velcro on and off the handle. You could also use a paintbrush or any small makeup sponge. So if we take a little look at the peacock feather, we have the very dark centre. So I'll put a dark centre. I'm not trying to make this like a real artistic image. Perfect rendition of a peacock feather. Just doing it for a little bit of interest and to see how it works. So we've got that. Now I need to make sure that's dry. And the next thing around the outside is sort of like a emerald green or a teal. So I think I might use this viridian green. I'll use a clean pounder. Put that around the outside. Make sure that's dry. And then I think we've got a sort of quite a lot of burnt sienna look there, so I might put some burnt sienna on. Let's put some burnt sienna around the bottom here. And then I think I'll go up into some yellow. Just playing. That's a fun thing about gel printing. You can just play. And then let's put a line along there. So let's go some of my favourite green gold. And then maybe back out to a more emeraldy colour. Oh, I love these jewel colours, they're so pretty. I'm going to blend that up there. And then a layer of teal, even above that, I think. New sponge for the teal. I need to be careful these don't dry on the sponges because it'll ruin them if they do. I'm not sure I like the way the teal is blended on there, but we'll see. I mean, if this one doesn't come out looking good, it's just a learning for the next one. I think I'll try and pick the whole thing up with the Titan green pale. And let's get a bit of shimmer in it by mixing it with the silver. So I'm rolling out a nice even pickup layer, making sure I've got a good coating of the Titan green and silver, and then cleaning my brayer off at the sheet at the side. I'm pressing my paper into the wet paint really well. Make sure it's all dry before we try and pull it. Making sure it's all dry gives you the best chance of lifting all those layers and making sure that the paper doesn't stick or rip or you leave bits of the print behind. See how easily this one is actually releasing from the gel plate. It's always best to take the gel plate off the paper as opposed to the paper off the gel plate. Well, there's an idea that could be expanded a little bit further. Don't mind the way that that was working out. More experimentation required. So this time I wanted to experiment with creating some more definition in the feather fronds. So I do this by laying two ghost prints, one on top of the other, one in a light colour and one in a darker colour. Here I've got Amsterdam greenish yellow and I'm mixing it up with Golden Paints Titan green pale. I wasn't a lover of that one, so I might just put this as another layer on top. It in really well. Try and pick up all the excess paint around the feather. I'm also pushing the feather into the gel plate to create a nice pattern in the paint that's left. Well, that's interesting because that didn't pick up as much paint as I would like, but it's made that one nice. And I'm just going to go with what we've got, because maybe we'll have a magical gel printing surprise. I'll dry this layer. And this time I'm going to go in with the phthalo green. I don't want to mix this lighter with this green. I'd rather it stay darker. In fact, I might even sure it's dark by putting in a couple of blobs of Payne's grey as well. This one's all dry, so the red's not going to cause a problem. I'm going to try and lay my feathers down again in a similar pattern. Really should have left them lined up so I knew exactly where they went. But that would have required some pre-planning. Which one's which? Don't think it really matters too much, but I'm going to put that one there, this one there, and this one was definitely in the middle. Probably around about there. I'm going to layer that on top of this pink one I've got here. And don't forget, I'm going to be picking up probably a reasonable amount of yellow that was left down on the plate from the previous print. Pushing it down again to try and pick up bits of paint that are missed. And it really does work doing this. Now that's, you see, that's why you just have to go with what you find left on the plate, because look at that lovely texture. And I couldn't necessarily have planned that. You just keep going, you just keep printing, and you see something fun and it comes up in your next print. That's what's magical about gel printing. I think this could be a good image. I'm going to make sure it's dry first. And I'm going to dive into the reverse painting. Oh, let's make sure this is dry first, because I don't want to start picking it up again. If I go straight on top and that's still wet, it'll just kind of pick it up, back up off the plate. The idea is I'm trying to loosely follow what we see on this feather. So I'm going straight over the top with the blue and then creating a bit more of a halo around the outside. Intention. And you can see there's a bit more colour at the bottom than at the top, so loosely thinking about that as I do it. And I say this isn't supposed to be like an accurate rendition of a peacock feather. It's supposed to be a fun idea. Want to get some turquoise in there, so with this teal. I love how teal and green gold mixed together, so surprise, surprise, I'm going for some green gold again. Dry this off first. Now the teal is an opaque colour, so I don't know how much the green gold will show through. But even if it only shows through a little bit, I think it could be pretty. I'll put some there. I can see some green gold down the bottom here. Should I put it on? Yeah, I'll put it on now. So the next thing I want to do is putting in this coppery colour, which I'm going to do with the iridescent copper. So now consider my rolling colours. I don't want to do green because obviously then I'll lose this green. Or shall we take a risk and try some purple? I've got quite a transparent purple somewhere. Where is it? The ultramarine violet. Let's give that a whiz. That sounds fun. I'm roughly kind of rolling it to cover the feathers. Maybe we'll do that. Perhaps I'll get a sponge and try and soften these edges so we don't see those roll marks too much. And then I'm going to let this layer dry. And then I'll put a final pickup layer on. Okay. I'm going to go in and pick the whole thing up with this pewter from Amsterdam Acrylics. Oh, I'm tempted to put a pattern in the background. That's what I'd like to do. Let me think, what could I put a pattern in the background with? Look, I got this plastic table mat from a fabric shop, which I haven't tried yet. I'm really tempted to try and put a bit of pattern in the background, just subtle. I'm saying subtle now, but I feel at liberty to change my mind. But let's put a layer of this I did this quite a lot in one of my previous videos. It is a technique that I really like. So what I'm doing is I'm putting nice even coverage of this pewter. This has a smoother side and a more textured side. Let's clear that out of the way a bit. So I'm going to put the more textured side down. I'm going to lay it on top as square as I can. And then just a scrap of paper I'm going to use to push it in. It shouldn't disturb the image below. I'm not trying to pick up the paint in between the pattern this time. I'm just trying to push it in to the paint to create a pattern, which I believe I have. Now I need that to dry. So the question is, what colour to pick it up with? So many decisions to make. So this paint is actually quite transparent, and I can tell it's transparent. I can see through it sitting on the plate. I can see the paint on the other side. So whatever colour I put on the back we're going to see it predominantly on the other side when we pull the print. So I could go quite subtle and use a Titan green, or I could try something a little brighter and go with the teal. And you know which way I'm tempted to go. It's to go with the brighter colour. Maybe I could compromise by mixing it with a little Titan as well. I need to make sure I've got enough paint here to get a good coating. I could feel I could feel it sort of grabbing as I was rolling out. So it indicated to me that there wasn't really quite enough paint on there. And if I kept rolling, I was probably going to start lifting the image onto my roller, which wouldn't have been a good situation. Let's put this down and keep our fingers crossed that we might have something that we like on the other side. Push it into the paint really well, onto the gel plate. And again, make sure it's totally dry before you start peeling it off. Oh. Now, how to deal with this? It didn't adhere very well to my paper. What I can do is try and stick that back down using some gel medium. So I've got some Liquitex gloss gel medium here. I'm going to pull that back again before I go too far. I'm going to try and see if we can save it. By lining that back up and pushing it in. Now we need that again to be 100% dry. Put up there, the gluing back on as well. We'll see if we'll get away with it. We may, or we may not. But it's a great opportunity to show you this possibility. Now it's not going to be 100% perfect because it's right on the edge and the plate is stretched a bit, so to get it 100% lined up isn't really possible, but that's okay. So the sensible thing to do would be just to leave this now to tomorrow so it could dry, but I can't be bothered to wait. So I'm going to flip it over and try and dry it with my hairdryer. and see if we can pull it here and now. I really took the time here to make sure that glue was 100% dry before I flipped it over. Okay, I'll start at another spot. See what happens. It's pulling up a little bit there. I try and bend the gel plate back on itself as much as possible. I don't think this was quite dry enough. Feeling it still feels tacky. That's probably why it's lifting a little bit. Yeah, it definitely wasn't dry enough. And what did I tell you about making sure it was all properly dry before you started pulling? Well, now you see the reason. But, you know, we got close enough. Close enough for playing. Pattern was quite subtle. You can just see it at the edges, which I think was probably a really good balance. And I like the grungy bits. You see that light blue there. So you can see if I zoom in to where I did that repair, I didn't actually do too bad a job sticking the piece back on. Well, it's not 100% perfect, but the whole thing is kind of rustic looking anyway, so I think it worked well enough. And I love the way you can see the yellow highlights from the first ghost print, and then the dark lowlights from the second ghost print. And we ended up with something quite fun. I hope you enjoyed that. Before I go, I've got one last thing to show you. My gel plate needs a clean, and I've got a sneaky little method that helps you lift up some of those last bits of grunge, unless of course you want to keep them for your next print. Right, time to clean this gel plate. And as it's got very obvious lines of paint here, I'll show you a quick way to do it, which is to get some tape, masking tape, sticky tape, packing tape, any tape, and you can just stick it down, and it should all just peel straight off. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. It really does help. I also have a newsletter, so if you'd like to keep in touch with all things gel printing and collaging, then you'll find a link on my YouTube page. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.